You know what cuts deeper than silence. It's not when she ignores your text. It's not even when she looks at you as if you're replaceable. What truly shatters a man is when he realizes that he gave away his value without even knowing it. Not through his actions, not through his body, but through the smallest, most fragile thing of all, his words. Every word you speak is a seed. It doesn't vanish into the air. It sinks into the soil of her perception. And depending on what you plant, it will either grow into desire, or it will rot into doubt. The tragedy is that most men don't even realize the seeds they're scattering. They believe they're expressing love, care, or sincerity. But in reality, they are planting desperation. They are planting weakness. They are planting the quiet whisper that says, "I am less than you." That's why rejection often feels so brutal. It isn't simply her walking away. It's you waking up to the fact that the very words you thought would bring her closer became the chains that pushed her away. Think about it. How many times have you told a woman something you believed was romantic, only to feel the energy shift? She smiled politely, maybe even thanked you, but deep down you knew you had just lost ground. You felt it in her tone, in her sudden distance, in the way her eyes drifted somewhere else. It's not because she's cruel, it's because, unconsciously, she heard something in your words that told her, "This man doesn't stand on his own, he kneels before me." The masculine mistake is assuming that words are harmless, that they're just expressions of what you feel. But the truth is, every phrase you use carries a hidden signal. A man who says, "I don't know what I'd do without you," isn't just sharing affection, he's confessing dependence. A man who constantly apologizes for his own presence isn't being polite, he's exposing fragility. And here's where it cuts even deeper. Women are wired to hear beyond the literal meaning. What you say is only half of what she receives. The other half is what your words reveal about who you are. When you speak from insecurity, she doesn't just hear the sentence, she feels the absence of strength. She feels the lack of roots beneath your voice. And desire cannot grow in that soil. This is why so many men feel blindsided. They think rejection comes out of nowhere. One day, she's laughing at your jokes. The next, she's gone. But if you trace back, if you replay the conversations, you'll notice the tiny cracks. You'll hear yourself saying things that placed her above you, words that positioned her as the prize, while you begged for permission to stay. It's not about perfection. It's not about saying the right line or memorizing tricks. It's about awareness. It's about realizing that your voice is not just sound. It's a declaration of your self-worth. Every sentence either reinforces your presence as a grounded man, or erodes it. The invisible seed of devaluation is planted the moment your words stop being an extension of your essence and start becoming a plea for her attention. That's when the soil turns against you. That's when your own tongue becomes the architect of your rejection. And here's the most painful truth. She doesn't have to say anything. You'll feel it in the air, in the way her energy pulls back, in the sudden silence after your words. That silence is the echo of what you just planted. So let me be clear. This introduction isn't about blaming you. It's about waking you up. Because the man who doesn't understand the weight of his words is destined to repeat the same loss again and again. But the man who learns to plant with intention, who learns that his words are not tools of desperation, but extensions of his strength, becomes unforgettable. This is where the journey begins. Not with her, with you, not with what she needs to hear, but with what you decide to plant. There is a kind of sentence that feels innocent when you say it, but once it leaves your mouth, it clings to her like a shadow. These are the words that don't just express affection, they reveal dependence. And dependence is the quiet poison of attraction. Most men never notice when they're doing it. They believe they are being loving, transparent, even romantic. Yet the undertone betrays them. When you say, "You mean everything to me," in the first weeks of knowing her, What you believe is an act of honesty becomes a silent confession of weakness. You may think you are telling her how special she is, but unconsciously, she hears something very different. Without you, I have no foundation. Without you, I collapse. That shift in perception changes everything. Women are far more attuned to subtext than men realize. They listen not only to the literal meaning, but to the energy behind the words. And when that energy is desperate, she withdraws. Not because she dislikes you, but because the weight of your dependence suffocates the very freedom where attraction grows. This is why so many men feel blindsided. They think, but I was honest. I told her how much she meant to me. What they don't understand is that honesty is not always strength. Honesty without grounding can be a cry for validation. A cry that exposes the cracks in your own sense of self. Psychology explains it clearly. The human brain is wired to detect imbalance. When someone gives too much too soon, the subconscious interprets it as need, not as love. Need signals lack. Lack signals weakness. And weakness does not awaken desire, it awakens distance. Consider this. A woman does not feel special because you hand her your entire identity. She feels special when you already stand on your own, and yet you still choose her. That choice communicates abundance. But when your words suggest that she is the only thing holding your life together, what you communicate is emptiness. You tell her that she is not entering a dance of equals. She is entering the role of rescuer. And no woman is magnetized by the thought of saving a drowning man. Men often confuse devotion with surrender. They imagine that the more they express, the more she will reciprocate. But relationships are not scales to be balanced by weight of emotion. They are currents of energy. If your words pour out faster than her ability to feel them, she will not catch them, she will drown beneath them. This is the hidden dependence of language. You think you are sharing from your heart, but what you are really doing is demanding her reassurance. Every sentence that says, "I need you," whether explicit or disguised, places her in a position she never asked for, the position of your lifeline. And the human instinct, when held too tightly, is to pull away. It's important to recognize how subtle this can be. Dependence doesn't always sound dramatic. Sometimes it hides in small phrases like, "I'm lost without you," or "I can't stop thinking about you," said too early, too often. These aren't declarations of love, they are alarms. They tell her that your inner balance rests on her approval, and that is far too much pressure for desire to breathe. Here's the paradox. Women are drawn to strength, but not the loud performative kind. They are drawn to the quiet confidence of a man who can stand alone, but chooses not to. When you speak from that place, your words don't beg, they resonate. They don't trap, they invite. A man who says, "I enjoy the way you challenge me," communicates something entirely different than the man who says, "I don't know what I'd do without you." The first shows recognition without surrender. The second shows surrender without recognition. One inspires attraction. The other plants dependence. You must learn to feel the weight of your own sentences before you give them away. Ask yourself, is what I'm about to say a reflection of my grounded self, or is it a request for her to validate my worth? If it is the latter, silence will serve you better than speech. For silence, at least, does not erode the soil of desire. Dependence, cloaked in affection, may seem like love to you, but to her, it sounds like a man abdicating his own throne. And once she sees you step down from it, it is nearly impossible for her to see you as the man who can lead her into the fire of attraction. When your words reveal need, instead of choice, they stop being bridges and start becoming chains. And the truth is simple. No woman wants to feel chained, especially not by the man she once looked to for freedom. The greatest tragedy of hidden dependence is not that she leaves. It's that, deep down, you know she left because you handed her a burden she never asked to carry. And in that moment, you feel smaller, not because she rejected you, but because your own words betrayed you. Every conversation with a woman carries a hidden exam. She does not hand you the questions, she does not announce the rules, and she never confirms when the test begins. But make no mistake, is always happening. The test is not about your knowledge of her favorite book, or your ability to guess her mood. It is about something much deeper, the way you see yourself. This is the silent test of self-esteem. She listens to your words, but she hears more than language. She hears the tone behind them, the hesitation in your pauses, the insecurity between the lines. She studies how you present yourself, not in grand gestures, but in subtle cues. The way you react to her disapproval, the way you frame your own worth, the way you speak about who you are. To her, your words are windows. And through those windows, she reads your strength or your weakness. Think of it as a mirror you cannot escape. Every sentence you utter reflects back your own level of conviction. When you say, "Sorry for bothering you," again and again, she does not hear courtesy. She hears fragility. She hears a man afraid of his own presence, apologizing for taking up space in her world. And if you apologize too often for existing, she begins to believe you have nothing worth claiming. Attraction cannot grow in the soil of self-erasure. Psychologically, this is rooted in what neuroscientists call microsignals, tiny indicators that bypass conscious thought and strike directly at instinct. A man who carries self-respect does not have to declare it. It vibrates through his body language, his rhythm of speech, the grounded calm of his words. Likewise, a man who lacks it cannot conceal it behind compliments or charm. His insecurity bleeds through the syllables, and she feels it before he realizes he has revealed it. It is why so many men feel they are doing everything right and still end up abandoned. They believe they are kind, attentive, generous. And yet, she drifts away. What they cannot see is that beneath the surface, every act of kindness was wrapped in an invisible request. Please confirm that I am enough. That is the test they fail at, because they lack love. But because they lack the unshakable core that tells her, "I am already enough, with or without you." Imagine a man standing in front of a mirror that magnifies not his face, but his self-image. That is what she perceives when you speak. If you doubt your value, the mirror reveals it instantly. She may not be able to articulate it, but she feels it. And feelings, not logic, guide attraction. One of the most dangerous phrases men use is the nervous apology. "Sorry, I didn't mean to bother you." "Sorry, I talk too much." "Sorry, I'm not very good at this." Each apology digs a small grave for attraction. Not because humility is unattractive, but because repeated apologies signal that you are shrinking yourself. They tell her that you see yourself as an intrusion, not as a gift. And no woman is drawn to the man who begs permission to exist. There is a difference between politeness and self-erasure. Politeness is respect offered from strength. Self-erasure is the illusion of respect offered from fear. Women instinctively know the difference. A man who stands in his own value can say thank you instead of sorry. He can acknowledge her time without diminishing his own. He can recognize her importance without lowering himself. Here lies the unspoken rule of the silent test. She does not want your perfection, she wants your presence. If your words reveal a man anchored in himself, she feels safe to open, to lean in, to respond. But if your words reveal a man uncertain of his own worth, she feels the burden of carrying what you cannot hold. The tragedy is that men often confuse over-apology with kindness, over-explanation with honesty, self-belittling with humility. They believe they are being considerate, when in fact, they are failing the exam. Because at the heart of the silent test is one question: do you believe in yourself? And if your language whispers no, her desire withdraws before you can even finish your sentence. The cure is not arrogance. It is not bravado or dominance. It is something quieter and more powerful, a steady voice rooted in certainty. When you know your worth, you do not have to beg her attention. Your words flow without hesitation, because you are not trying to prove anything. You are not pleading to be accepted. You are simply sharing from a place of wholeness, and wholeness is magnetic. Self-esteem is not declared, it is detected. That is why every phrase you speak either passes or fails the silent test. It is not the volume of your voice, but the ground beneath it. It is not the eloquence of your words, but the conviction they carry. And the man who understands this does not need to chase validation. He knows that attraction is not earned through apology. It is awakened through presence. When a man speaks from fear of losing, every word becomes a confession of lack. Scarcity is not only about money or possessions. Scarcity can live in the language you use with a woman. It is the subtle tone that reveals, "You are my only chance," or, "Without you, I am nothing." These sentences, spoken or implied, do not ignite desire, they extinguish it. The psychology is simple, yet devastating. Attraction thrives on abundance. Not material abundance, but emotional abundance. Sense that you are already full, already grounded, already whole. When your words betray the opposite, you unconsciously tell her that you are clinging, not choosing. And no woman is drawn to a man who treats her as his oxygen supply. Consider the man who whispers, "Without you, I can't go on." He believes he is expressing devotion, that his depth of feeling will prove his love. But beneath that declaration lies the truth she instinctively hears. "I am empty. I have nothing apart from you. You carry all my worth." What begins as poetry in his mind becomes weight on her shoulders. Instead of desire, she feels burden. Instead of intimacy, she feels trapped. This is the language of scarcity words that expose fear instead of presence. They reveal that you are not entering the relationship as a man who adds value, but as a man begging not to be abandoned. Scarcity does not seduce, it suffocates. In neuroscience, the limbic system is designed to respond to signals of survival and safety. When your words suggest that your survival depends on her, her brain reads it as danger. Not danger of violence, but danger of entrapment. Desire cannot coexist with the sense that one person's collapse rests on the other's shoulders. Withdraws not because she lacks empathy, but because her instincts reject being held responsible for another adult's emotional survival. Scarcity can also disguise itself as exaggeration. "You are my everything. No one could ever compare to you. Without you, I have no life." These lines may sound poetic, but they do not elevate her. They reduce you. They strip away your sovereignty and declare her the keeper of your existence. For a brief moment, she may enjoy the flattery. But over time, that flattery curdles into exhaustion. It is not attractive to feel like a man's sole lifeline is claustrophobic. The paradox is clear. Men speak from scarcity, believing it will secure loyalty, but in truth, it accelerates loss. The more you cling, the faster she lets go. The more you confess your emptiness, the more she feels her own need for space. Scarcity never stabilizes a bond, it unravels. Look at nature. A tree with deep roots does not cling to the soil it grows from it. A river does not beg for rain, it flows from its source. In the same way, a man grounded in himself does not speak as if his life depends on a woman. He speaks as if his life already has direction, and she is invited to join that current. That is abundance. That is the opposite of scarcity. There is another subtle form of scarcity, when you justify your actions, your time, your feelings excessively, you reveal that you are afraid of being misunderstood or abandoned. "I didn't text because I was busy, but please don't think I don't care." At first, it seems considerate. But read Beneath the surface, you are confessing fear. You are begging not to be misinterpreted, which means you are begging not to be left. Every over-explanation erodes authority and plants dependence. A man who speaks from abundance communicates differently. He can say, "I was busy today," with calm assurance, without apology, without fear. His words carry the vibration of choice, not desperation. His presence fills the space. And because he is not clinging, she feels drawn. His lack of need creates room for her desire to breathe. The truth is this: the language of scarcity is not about her at all. It is about you. It exposes your unhealed fear of abandonment, your unrecognized dependence, your unwillingness to stand alone. Every time you speak from that place, you surrender the ground beneath your feet. But when you reclaim your words, when you speak from fullness, you stop begging for her presence and start embodying the man she cannot forget. The soil of attraction cannot grow roots in scarcity. It demands abundance at excess, not arrogance. But the quiet steadiness of a man who knows his life has meaning whether she stays or goes. That steadiness is irresistible. It transforms your words from confessions of lack into declarations of choice. And choice, not desperation, is the essence of desire. There are moments in a man's life when he does not lose because of silence or absence, but because his own words betrayed him. They handed over the map to his insecurities, revealed the depth of his longing, and announced his lack of control. In those moments, attraction did not fade because she stopped caring. It faded because he gave her the script before she even finished reading the story. The most obvious example is the sentence, "I'd do anything for you." On the surface, it sounds like devotion. It sounds like loyalty, sacrifice, passion. But beneath the surface, it exposes something else: desperation. It reveals that your boundaries are weak, that you are willing to compromise your essence, and that your desire has erased your self-respect. It is not romance, it is surrender. A woman hears more than your intention. She hears what your words say about who you are. When you declare you would do anything, she understands that you have no filter, no line you will not cross. And the human instinct is simple. What has no limits, has no value. If you will do anything, then nothing about you is rare. Nothing about you is sacred. You have reduced yourself from a man of choice to a man of submission. Psychologically, this is tied to what researchers call over-disclosure. Too much transparency, too quickly, destabilizes attraction. It creates the illusion that you are trying to buy intimacy with confessions. You pour your soul out in an attempt to be chosen, but the overflow feels less like trust and more like a plea. And pleas are not magnetic, they are repelling. Consider the way a poker player loses, not by showing his cards, but by revealing his tells. Every nervous glance, every twitch, every unnecessary word gives away the game. The same happens in relationships. Your over-confessions, your exaggerated promises, your desperate affirmations, they tell her exactly what you fear. They tell her exactly how much power she holds. And once she sees the imbalance, the dynamic shifts. Attraction becomes pity, and pity never sustains desire. But here lies the paradox. Men believe that openness will prove their authenticity. They think that saying everything, revealing everything, will earn them closeness. What they forget is that mystery is not deception, it is magnetism. You do not need to pour every thought into her lap for her to know your truth. In fact, the less you spill, the more she leans in to discover. It is not about silence for its own sake. It is about measured revelation. A man who knows his worth understands that his words are not currency to be spent carelessly. They are treasures to be revealed with intention. When he says, "I appreciate the way you challenge me," he is not confessing dependence. He is acknowledging presence. He is not begging to be accepted. He is offering recognition without surrender. This is where The true power lies communicating desire without abandoning identity. Most men hand over one in exchange for the other. They believe that showing desire requires sacrificing strength. But the opposite is true. The strongest expression of desire is the one that does not need to erase itself to be felt. When you can say, "I enjoy this," or "I value this about you," without adding, "and without you, I am lost," you demonstrate that your desire is a choice, not a prison. And this is what women respond to, often unconsciously. They are not drawn to the man who places himself at their feet. They are drawn to the man who stands tall and still chooses them. His words reveal preference, not desperation. His speech reflects control, not collapse. He does not give away the game because he is not playing for survival. He is playing from abundance. The words that give away the game are the ones that tell her your emotional state before she has earned the right to know it. They are the words that reveal you are more invested than she is, that you are more desperate for the bond than she is ready to provide. Every time you reveal that imbalance, you place her in a position of power you should never surrender. Restraint is not dishonesty, it is wisdom. It is the understanding that your truth does not need to be unloaded all at once to be real. It is the discipline to let your presence speak louder than your need. A man who gives away the game with his words is a man who confuses honesty with exposure. But a man who learns to speak with weight, who reveals not everything but enough, holds the magnetic tension that keeps desire alive. In the end, the real game is not to convince her with words, but to remind her through your restraint that you are a man of depth, not of desperation. You do not need to say everything, because what you choose to say already carries the power of choice. And when she feels that, she leans closer not because you begged, but because you remained whole. There is a force more powerful than any clever phrase, stronger than any compliment, sharper than any declaration of love. That force is silence. Not the silence of fear, not the silence of passivity, but the silence chosen with intention. Strategic silence. A man who cannot endure silence is a man enslaved by his own anxiety. He feels the need to fill every pause, to reassure her with constant words, to keep the air occupied so that her attention does not drift. Yet in his attempt to hold her focus, he reveals something far more dangerous, his fear of being forgotten. The silence he avoids becomes the proof of the insecurity. He cannot hide, but the man who knows the power of silence does not rush to fill the space. He allows gaps in conversation because he trusts that his presence is enough. His pauses are not empty, they are full of weight. Every word he chooses to release carries gravity, precisely because it is not drowned in noise. Silence becomes his punctuation, a way of showing that he is not desperate to be heard, because he already knows. His value. Psychology calls this pacing. When you slow the rhythm of your speech, when you are comfortable with pauses, you signal authority. The human brain associates calm tempo with dominance and composure. A man who speaks without rushing demonstrates that he is not anxious about the response. He speaks as if the world has the patience to hear him, and she feels that authority, even before she processes the words themselves. Think of the lion. The lion does not roar constantly to remind the jungle of his status. He walks, he watches, he waits. The silence around him is louder than any sound. His authority is not announced, is assumed. In the same way, a man who understands strategic silence does not announce his value in desperate words. He allows the quiet to reveal it for him. Silence is also a filter. When you resist the urge to explain yourself endlessly, when you do not rush to fill every gap with justification, you force her to sit with her own emotions. That space allows her attraction to grow, because desire thrives in mystery, not in overexposure. By saying less, you invite her to imagine more. And imagination is the soil of longing. Yet many men fail this test. They cannot tolerate the discomfort of her delayed response. If she takes longer to reply to a message, they panic. If she pauses before answering, they rush to soften the tension with apologies or clarifications. Did I say something wrong? Are you upset with me? Each of these sentences is an admission. You cannot carry the weight of silence. And the moment she realizes that, the dynamic shifts. You lose the frame, and she begins to lead. Strategic silence is not absence, it is presence magnified. It is the discipline to hold your ground without begging for reassurance. It is the awareness that sometimes the most powerful thing you can communicate is restraint. In silence, your body language speaks louder, your eyes convey more truth, and your energy becomes the message. This is not a tactic to manipulate her. It is not about playing games. It is about alignment. If your words always rush ahead of your essence, you will always feel as if you are chasing her. But when your silence is rooted in self-possession, she feels the gravity of a man who is not trying to prove himself. She feels the rare pull of someone who is at peace with the space between words. There is another dimension to this art. Silence as withdrawal. Not every comment demands your defense. Not every provocation deserves your energy. When you choose silence instead of argument, you reveal that your emotions are not hers to control. You do not need to react to every spark. You can let the fire burn itself out while you remain grounded. That kind of silence is not weakness, it is sovereignty. The man who understands silence holds a weapon that most overlook. Because while other men exhaust themselves with declarations, flattery, and explanations, he lets absence speak. He lets restraint communicate what noise never could. Certainty. A certainty that tells her, without words, I am whole. I am not desperate. I choose you, but I do not need you to complete me. This is the paradox of silence. To the insecure, it feels like emptiness. To the grounded, it feels like strength. And to the woman, it feels like gravity, a pull that draws her closer. Not because you demanded it, but because your silence left room for her to step in. Every man leaves an imprint. Sometimes it is the memory of his touch, sometimes the image of his presence, but most often, it is the echo of his voice. Long after you are gone, long after she has moved on with her life, what lingers is not every word you said, but the way your words made her feel. Your voice is not just sound, it is energy, identity, essence. And when it comes from a place of strength, it is unforgettable. The truth, most men never realize, is that women do not fall in love with lines, they fall in love with resonance. They fall in love with the vibration behind the words, the certainty beneath the syllables, the stability within the pauses. A man's voice, when anchored in conviction, can ignite desire without a single attempt at persuasion. It can awaken respect without a single demand. But when his words are drenched in need, in apology, in desperation, the voice becomes forgettable, just another echo lost in the noise of weak men. Think back to the moments that stayed with you. It was never the clever phrase. It was never the rehearsed compliment. It was the weight of authenticity. The way a sentence landed, because it carried truth instead of strategy. Women feel the same. They are not searching for poetry, they are searching for presence. And presence is what turns ordinary words into something eternal. This is why you must treat your voice as more than communication. It is your stamp, your legacy. Every time you speak, you are declaring not only what you feel, but who you are. If your words betray insecurity, she remembers you as fragile. If your words radiate dependence, she remembers you as heavy. But if your words emerge from a core of wholeness, she remembers you as rare. Rare, because so few men today speak without kneeling. The man who understands this no longer wastes language. He does not scatter words for approval. nor does he drown her in endless declarations. He speaks less often, but when he does, it matters. His tone carries steadiness, his timing carries intention, his silence carries as much meaning as his speech. To such a man, every phrase becomes a signature. Every sentence a mark carved into memory. There is psychology in this, but also symbolism. In Gungian thought, the voice is tied to expression of the self, the projection of the inner world into reality. To speak with weakness is to project fragmentation. To speak with strength is to project integration. Women feel this unconsciously. They sense when a man's words are aligned with his essence. That alignment is what draws them in, not the vocabulary, but the integrity behind it. This is why a woman can remember a single sentence for years. I like the way you see the world. You make things more alive. I respect the way you carry yourself. These are not dramatic confessions, but simple truths. They do not demand her validation. They acknowledge her presence from a position of strength, and because they are grounded, she replays them in her mind. Long after the moment has passed, attraction is not maintained by constant talk. It is maintained by calibrated expression. You are not trying to flood her with evidence of your worth. You are allowing her to feel it in the way you occupy silence, in the steadiness of your tone, in the clarity of your speech. This is why the voice is not only communication, it is command. A command that does not demand obedience, but that invites respect. Every man must understand this. Women do not forget how you made them feel. If your words made them feel heavy, they will not want to return. If your words made them feel trapped, they will seek escape. But if your words carried lightness rooted in strength, if they carried depth without dependence, they will not forget. You, even if life moves them elsewhere, your voice will remain. So the question is not, what should I say? The question is, who am I when I speak? For it is not the line that matters, it is the man behind the line. And when your words carry sovereignty, when your voice is an extension of your grounded self, you do not need tricks. You do not need rehearsed phrases. You become unforgettable because you are unshaken. When you speak from that place, you stop chasing her memory. You become her memory. You become the echo she hears in moments of silence. The standard by which she measures other men, the imprint that time cannot erase. That is the voice she never forgets.